Well, hello, I'm alone in Finland, this is EVE Online, and I thought I would do another little video just on the back of the other one to do with how you can actually make some money low-sec ratting. So this is a fairly easy fit. I do have Tech 2 guns on it, but the reason I've got Tech 2 guns on it is just cheapness. I was fitting up in Heck and there wasn't much available there. So what I've actually done here is I've set up a ship that can just quite happily take out some of the ships in 0.2 low sec. I'm just keeping an eye on what's in local, and I'm just going to go through the belts and rat a little bit. Obviously my shield warning is coming up there, but I'm armour tank, so it's not a big thing, and with the right orbiting you can see not much is actually hitting us. It's mainly missiles that are hitting us instead of the actual gun systems on the rats. The mutant that's in front of us has got an 800,000 bounty, which is not too bad, not too shabby, and you can just move through the belts doing this, providing you're keeping an eye on what's going on. Now I'm in Kabi at the moment, KHABI, it's a 0.2 system, and there's 3 other people, one of which is a known pirate. So it is a little bit dangerous, but the advantage of doing this and the way that I'm doing it is this ship is a fairly cheap ship to fly, so if I lose it it's not too much, and it'll take about half an hour in 0.2 to actually make the money back for one ship. So if you're moving between systems and paying attention, you should be okay, sort of making a bit of money here with low skill amounts. Now the trick to doing this is you need something that can kick out around about 200 DPS, which is why I'm using a destroyer. And specifically I'm using this particular destroyer against the Sanchez because the laser crystals are the damage resistance, the best damage output for damage resistance. As you can see, Sanchez got low EM and then low thermal, and crystals put out EM and thermal. So again, just keep tapping V so it's descanning, and I'm keeping an eye on what's going on in local. Doesn't appear to be too much going on, but this is a nice easy way to farm a few rats if you want to do that in low sec. Get a little bit of extra iskin for low skills. So what I'm actually going to do just now is hop back through to the station that I've got in high sec, or where I'm based, it's not my station, and then change out for something else a little bit better for this. Now this is a good example. I just bring up the fitting here. It's 13.9 mil. I'm using Tech 2 weapons, but you can use Tech 1. As I said, the reason I'm using Tech 2 here is because they were cheaper in Heck. There wasn't much selection of what was available in Heck, and the only ones that I could fit were about $1.5 million a piece, which is far over the normal Jita price. So I went with Tech 2 because I've got the skills for it. The difference between Tech 2 and the sort of higher tiers of the Tech 1 are about 250 DPS, I believe, for the modal Tech 1s. So that's a good choice, and it won't sort of harm you too much with getting through the rats. As you can see there, that wasn't much of a problem. So this is a good idea for something that you could use. We have one guy in system here. We're still in 0.3. Now the thing about this is you want to try and go 0.2 or 0.1. 0.3 has a lower sort of bounties that generate in general, and also if you're going to get clone spawns, you will get about 15 to 25 mil for each clone spawn in 0.2 or 0.1. Whereas in 0.3 and higher it's 1 to 2 mil, so you get 10 times the amount when you get a clone spawn. So it's a better idea to go for that sort of higher amount, for the lower security to get the higher amount, because at the end of the day the security is pretty much the same. As you can see there, I'm sort of running a system where I'm basically trying to kill before it causes me to start having to rep. But from my fit you can see that we're sort of cap stable, so we can run for 2 minutes with everything on at the same time. But you shouldn't really need to put the armour on. And as you can see here, I'm running Tech 1 for everything, and I've got some small rigs there just to sort of boost the power, because the power requirements for this are kind of high. If you're low skilled and you're flying sort of as a newer pilot that doesn't have the capacitor and the power grid skills, then what I would say is skip the capacitor recharge and put another ancillary current round to run, and go for smaller weapons with lower DPS. I'm going for the biggest Tech 2 at the moment. The Tech 1s have a lower power requirement, and they come in several varieties, but try and keep your DPS around about 250. I've also got a power diagnostic system here to give me a little bit more boost on the power, just to sort of compensate for that. Now this is running the laser ship for the Sanchez, but the other option for the Sancha, and obviously you want to set your weapon type to the rat type, but the be all and end all in my opinion is the Thrasher. So the advantage with the Thrasher is you have higher damage output, sort of in general. This is using Tech 1 ammo, so again I'm using Tech 2 autocannons, but you can, if you're lower skill level, you can swap out to the sort of lower skilled weapons while upping the ammo that you're using. So for this, instead of using, where do we have it? Instead of using the basic ammo, here we are, your EMP, I'm using EMP obviously because it's Sancha. You can switch out damage types, so with the Thrasher you can actually hit any of the rats for their main damage type because you just switch out the ammo to what is required. But you've also got the faction. I believe the Republic fleet is the sort of cheapest, and if I just sort of simulate this here, going from 279 DPS with the basic stuff, if I up to fleet EMP, if it lets me do that, there we go, you can see that it's gone up to 321, so I get sort of 50 DPS on the top, 60, 70 possibly DPS on top just by switching to faction. But the reason that I'm using the basic stuff is because it's cheap. So you're paying sort of 10 times the price. You can see here it says 533 per ISK per round, as opposed to the basic, which is 32. So you're sort of 12 times the price per round that you're shooting. So it's cheaper to go with the cheap stuff. And all I've done is I've put a couple of thousand into the cargo hold, and this is just a nice simple ship. Cost for the ship, I just missed that there, I can't remember. So this one is 24 million, but the reason it's so expensive is because I've put in one small EM shield reinforcer. If you're not going against Sancha or Blood, then that's not a requirement, and it isn't really a requirement anyway. You could get away with not having it, but I just wanted a bit more protection because of where I am. So I've got higher EM resistance on the shield, and then I've just put in 2 of these blocks because I'm not thinking about PvP or anything like that. So the most expensive thing on this is that reinforcer, and you could actually get away with just putting in a Tech 1 as well. I just did this as a bit more protection, but with let me see, so you're talking about 3.5 million for that, so this looks around about 20 million fit if you use Tech 1. And you can see there I've used the Tech 2 damage control, which doesn't have the full hull upgrades 5 requirement. That's why I put that one in, because it's still sort of friendlier to the newer players. You can go with lower if you want, I just sort of prefer it. You can switch it out for a damage mod as well. I'm using gyro stabs 2, which again is weapon upgrades 2, so these aren't too high a requirement, whereas the actual guns that I'm using for this particular one do have a high requirement, so I would recommend switching them down a bit. And if we actually simulate it, I'll just pull this out for a second. If it lets me click on stuff, there we go. So if we're just changing the weapons over, and you can see the sort of difference. So going for the autocannons, small autocannons, 200s, light prototypes, and then swapping over to the charges. The EMP charge for me will drop you down a little bit, not too much. So that's 248 as opposed to 279, so you lose about 30 DPS. Obviously that's skill requirement, so your skills might be on the lower end, but just something to consider. The Thrasher is a fantastic ship for doing things like this, and with enough shield here, just using the buffer, we're not thinking about tanking anything, we just want to get in, kill stuff, move away, move on, nice and quick. So let's go and show that one off. Now, one of the things that I would say that you can do is that you can sort of plan a route through Lowsec, and then just sort of pick an area you know to be quiet, or you can try and guess to be quiet, and shoot through just one side to the other, and sort of go into a system, go belt, 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 belt into the next system and keep going, and it should give you sort of some decent ISK, especially for a newer player, and that little bit of sort of fun, interesting combat if somebody shows up. But bear in mind, we're not rigged for PvP. Having said that, if somebody takes you on, especially in this ship, you do have the tank, the sort of passive tank, to possibly take out a frigate depending on what you do, and if they don't warp off. So it's something that's always worth a little bit of a try. Now I'm in 0.3 here, I'm in Ubtiz, and I'm just going to pop through some belts and see what's what. We've got one other guy in the system. I do not know this guy. Oh, but I do know his corp, so piratey. So you always have to sort of pay attention to these guys. Something else, if you do have an alt that has cargo, when every one of these mining spawns, or every second mining spawn should I say, one out of every two has a cargo hauler, an industrial, that's the word I'm looking for, that spawns with it, that will come in and out, and you will need to scram it to hold it down, but if you spot it and you can tackle, scram and kill it, you will get a lot of minerals out of them, but you need to get on grid quickly, scram it, tackle it, kill it, and then get off grid before the reinforcements arrive, because there will be reinforcements and they are interesting, but then you can bring in a hauler to loot all the stuff. You won't be able to do it sort of normally in a frigate, a cruiser, etc., because of the actual size of them. There's a lot of cargo in them. So just heading in, having a look at what we've got here. Nothing difficult. So I'm just going to go in and orbit one of them. And I'm actually going to switch targets because I started shooting at the wrong one. Turn off the micro warp. Oh, I did start shooting at the right one. So there we go. Kick on the micro warp again. Now, part of the reason why I like going fast in this ship, aside from the fact that Minmatar ships are built for going fast, the other thing is that if you've got a cloaky that's sort of sneaking about, if you're jarting all over the place, then it's difficult for them to get on top of you and decloak before you've sort of moved out of range or out of the way. So it's always a good thing to think about who's watching you. Obviously you saw in my last video that a guy sort of popped in and was right below us without realising it was there, and that could be anyone at any time in Lowsec. It's very good to be paranoid in Lowsec, because they are out to get you. I don't know why I turned off my guns there, I think I accidentally hit the key. But you can see the advantage of this thing when you're just using the standard EMP ammo, you just choose through the rats, no problem. My range is about 8 kilometers, so not too bad. and we have good tracking on this, so you can orbit at a little bit higher speed. As you can see, I'm hitting shots of 600, 700. Not too bad. Now these ones have some loot, but nothing really too impressive. I'll take that, and I'll take the crystal. It is sort of, if you're at a younger level, like a newer player, then it is a good idea in general to have a look at some of the things that you can get off of these. Not always because you're looking to sell them, sometimes it's just good to build up a little backlog of different modules and things that can be useful. Something that I did today, just because I saw it at the last moment, I want to show this. Market transactions. This one. Does it say... How do I show the details? There we go. So, I sold an EC Hornet, which cost about 25,000 for 30 million, because I happened to notice that there was none in HEC that were up for sale, or there was a couple up for sale, and the few that were up for sale were actually up for sale for 180 million. So I decided to put a few up for sale, as you saw there, for 30 million a piece, because a lot of people will have sort of pre-saved ships, and they will just hit sort of buy it all now, or over here sort of the fit settings, and they won't look at the price that they're spending when they're actually buying something, or if it's sort of within their realm, they won't think about it too much. So somebody actually bought a drone off of me for 100 times the price that it's worth, which was just funny. But the reason I did that is because I had an EC drone. I don't often use them, but it was something that was dropped at one point and it was useful to pick up. Now, something to remember when you're doing this: if you're going through and you're ratting like this, make sure you clear all the belts. You don't want to leave something alive, because it will affect your future spawns. Sometimes it will just stop the future spawn until that's been taken care of. Your rough rate, it's sort of, the way that it's calculated is per belts in system. So there is, from what I've read about it online, essentially you've got, it's calculated every 100 spawns, and you will get, per system, you will get about 100 spawns before you get sort of good ones like clone soldiers and things like that. And the spawns, if one hasn't been cleared, then you won't get a new one. They might warp about the system or things like that, but you have to get them all cleared, or they will sort of despawn in time. So clearing them gets them to respawn faster, which is obviously useful, and gets you to good spawns like clone soldiers or faction or Mordu or things like that a lot faster. Now when it comes to those special spawns, so faction, Mordu, and I've forgotten the third one, can't remember off the top of my head, but those special spawns that come up every once in a while, the way that those happen is they come every 100 spawns or so. It's on average, so it's sort of part of the RNGs, is random number generators that sort of govern a lot of these things. I'm just not going to move and see if I can pop that without shifting. It's a little out of my range. Let's go and get it. But every 100 spawns or so you will get one of these better spawns, and the better spawns will take a few different sort of a few different variations. However, within those special spawns you will have those subgroups, so you will have the clone soldiers, you will have the faction spawns, and you will have the Mordu. That's the ones I was searching for. The faction spawns are the most common out of the faction spawns. It is not every single one will drop a good module, so sometimes you will just get nothing from them. We've got a lot of people jumping into system at the moment. But so faction spawns are the most common out of the specials. Then after that you will have the clone soldiers, which are a little less common, but always have something, so they always have a tag that they drop. And again, if you're 0.2 or below, then that tag will be worth 15 to 25 mil. If you're 0.3 and above, but still in Lowsec, that tag will be worth 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 mil. Then after that you have the Mordor Legion. Now the Mordor Legion spawns, you will get a blueprint of the ship that you kill almost every time. In fact, I think it is actually every time, which is always useful. Somebody's looking for me on local. I'm going to jump to the next belt anyways. So the Mordor Legions ones are sort of the best ISK, like guaranteed ISK when you get them, although the blueprint, the frigate blueprint, is worth less than some of the modules you get with faction. And with the Mordor Legion, it sort of comes into 3 tiers again. You have the frigate, you have the cruiser, and you have the battleship. Obviously those blueprints get more expensive as they go, but they don't regularly spawn at the same rate. So frigates will spawn more often than cruisers, and cruisers will spawn more often than battleships. So if you find a Mordor's battleship, you've essentially won the lottery, because of how seldom that they spawn, and it's something to have a look at. It's a good way to go through and clear the systems, and you'll get these spawns. If you keep working one system over and over again, you will get these spawns, but again, you are up against other players. At the moment I've got 2 players, and by local chat one of them says he's looking for us. I doubt it's going to be much of a problem, but well, even if I lose the ship, it's not much of a problem. So these are not expensive ships, and they're a bit fun to fly, and you also get to see some of the shiny ships off of the NPCs. And as you can see there with my shield, I'm not having an issue whatsoever with tanking. I don't really have to orbit, and I'm still managing okay. Now I'm orbiting too close and my guns are not tracking. So I'm going to move this out so I can hit a bit better. That's also because I'm being disrupted, tracking disrupted. So it's not great. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to swap over to something a bit heavier just to wipe out this guy's tracking disruptor. So now I need to get closer. Just to pulse the micro warp to do that. Oops. And I pulsed the entire wrong way for some reason, but okay then. I am so getting... Oh, that's why I wasn't tracking. I was shooting at the entire wrong one, because I'm in Egypt. See, this is why it's not good for me to talk while I'm doing stuff. But let's just mince this guy with heavy ammo. So the Tech 2 ammo, when it comes to these, they hit heavier, but obviously they are not the right damage types for what we're going on. So we're hitting kinetic and explosive, which are actually the best resists. So not a great thing in general. How's this guy not found me yet? Like, there's only 7 bells. That's just weird. The other thing that's useful about grabbing the loot, especially when you're early on, is that even the stuff that you can't sell, you can reprocess and get some decent minerals out of it. So if you want to build some stuff, it's also very useful. Just to keep picking up loot and then eventually just reprocess it all. I got about 20,000 megasite the other day from the stuff that I pick up when I'm missioning, which is a phenomenal amount of megasite off of essentially Tech 1. So always good to have. And we'll just jump into the next one. last belt on a run for this system. So I hope that's a little bit of help for somebody that's looking at it. You obviously, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you've got dscan running. Remember that V is your key for doing dscan. Have it on 360, and if anybody comes close, you want to bring your dscan in and just sort of figure out how close they're getting as to whether you need to align, warp away, etc. Keep your local open at all times, so that you can see it. But what I would actually advise you do is keep it open, but make sure you are selected on a different box so you don't accidentally type in it, because it's always good to leave people guessing as to where you are. But yeah, I hope that's a little bit of helpful information if you're looking at doing some PvE and Lowsec and running through some belts and ratting. It's a good way to make a little bit of ISK when you're starting off. It's not the safest way of doing it, but it's a bit of fun and you get to explore the place. And obviously there is a chance of getting the faction spawns if you do enough of it, so definitely worth giving a shot just for that. But I'm alone in Finland. This has been a weird video. Sorry if I sound quiet. It is. Oh, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning now, so I'm staying quiet to make sure I don't wake any kids. But yep, thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, I was going to finish this video just there, but I just have to show this because I love kids. Local chat. And Dutch, someone you want to mess with, advise you move on or be hunted. Move! Well, you know what that means. I'm going to be playing with these guys for a while. They're coming for me.